Hello. Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the premier business development partner within tech. Today, we've got a great guest joining us. We're joined by Rolan Reichel, the co-founder and COO of moat.co. Roland, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Oliver. Great to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
It's great to have you on. It's great to meet you. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do with Moat?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a brief overview of my background. Basically, 15 years advertising and technology expertise here in the Bay Area. So my core focus is ad tech and martech. I've been building or working at startups or enterprise companies in that space. All through a series of startups in the Bay Area. Ended with running the US for a publicly traded company called iClick. I did all their technology and business partnerships. Then I became an entrepreneur and started building technology on my own. The first company I ever built was a video advertising platform, had an exit in 2017 on the Toronto Venture Stock Exchange. Modest but happy exit. And then since then, the last 4 or 5 years, focused 100% on artificial intelligence. So building off all those years of sort of machine learning and big data, focused on AI, generative AI, and other use cases. And recently launched a company called moat.co. We're building an AI-powered operating system for private equity to manage their portfolio companies. I'm the co-founder and COO.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And I know Moat.co is your most recent business launch, and AI has obviously become a massive trend. Like you said, you've built on it over the years. But what gap in the market did you see that made you want to launch Moat?
Yeah, it's a great question. So private equity is a really interesting space. I feel like it's this dark, murky world kind of over the hill with clouds and you can't quite see it, but it touches so much, so many parts of the economy and so many parts of our lives, actually. I was just reading there's about $6.3 trillion deployed in operating companies. Between about 90% of that is private equity, about 10% is family offices, but family offices are starting to look like private equity firms nowadays anyway. So the gap in the market is this, that traditionally private equity made all the choices up front. So try and choose the right company in a growing sector with the right management team. And if they did that and brought some financial engineering and could trim the sales and they could grow with that sector and have a nice exit, right? Buy a company for a couple 100 million, sell it for 8 or 900 million. This is specifically in the mid cap, but those numbers can be bigger, obviously, bigger companies. So that's been the traditional model, and that works really well in PE. Two major trends have happened. One, the world's just way, way more competitive. So even these mid cap companies um, can need to compete through automation and artificial intelligence. And number two is there's more pressure on the private equity firms to grow these businesses now. So the financial engineering is not enough. They actually have to grow the business and beat the category. So we recognize these trends and started working with private equity firms really around the growth marketing area first to say, hey, you're going to hold this company for 5 years. Let's grow it. And then now it's actually expanding into a whole conversation around agentic workflows and like all the different workflows they can bring to these companies to help them grow faster and have better valuations at exit.
Awesome. Yeah, very interesting. And Roland, you mentioned some of the early success you found with Moat. How have you gone about breaking through the noise of the AI space? There's so many companies coming in to play. How'd you go about getting off the ground so quickly?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the two main thesis right now really is horizontal or vertical, right? So you see a lot of companies going horizontal, and there's been massive successes. OpenAI is a horizontal. I mean, Google obviously is horizontal in many ways. Manus, some of the newer platforms that are coming out. Even some friends of ours launched a company called Double O that does agentic workflows for any company. And that's a great strategy, but we have a different one, and that's really vertical business applications. So we think that building custom LLMs and a tech stack specific that can be highly effective for a vertical is the way to go. So that's what we did. So we're really building it for private equity companies and the specific needs they have in managing their businesses. And those specific needs have to do with insight and planning and allocation and strategy. So we've cut through the noise by just getting really specific on the business use case and picking a market with a very particular go-to-market strategy, which is events and network. And because I've got the gray hair to prove it, I've been in the Bay Area for many years. I was able to leverage my network to really get kind of face to face with some of these private equity firms to partner with them, figure out what their needs are, and deploy technology and capabilities that meet those needs.
Yeah, nice, nice. And it sounds like you found some early traction where you guys can find your gap in the market and kind of capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's been learned over your years as an entrepreneur, but tying it back to the early days, you mentioned you worked with some bigger companies as a 9 to 5 corporate individual. What made you want to take that leap into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the I'll share with you the jump I made and why I did it. So I started off, I learned marketing in the beer business. So I used to run the Corona brands here in the Bay Area for the local distributor. So I managed about $80 million a year in beer business, and I had 40 salespeople, and I was managing the Corona brand, right? So I learned a little bit about field marketing, about analysis, incentive planning, channel and planning, all of that, even digital marketing. And that was great. And when you work on a big brand like Corona, you're going to work the whole year to get a 1-2% lift, right? Because it's such a stable brand. But that's a huge accomplishment to get a 2% lift on a brand like that. It's amazing, right? And it's a huge chunk of cash. So it's, high fives all the way around. But so I was doing that and I was learning a lot and enjoying my career. I got recruited into a startup that was a turnaround situation. And my boss there, shout out to Adam Archer, first person I worked with in digital. He made his bones at Apple as an engineer. So he was on the team that built the first iOS 1 for the iPhone, very first iOS 1, sleeping under his desk, tickets from Steve Jobs, like 6 people building the operating system, like amazing. But he had made the jump into entrepreneurship and his company wasn't going well. I joined him in turnaround mode. They had like we were like down to 6 people. We turned the company around and in 11 months had an exit. So I went from like having this great job with an amazing company to like working with this rock star and having an exit in 11 months. And it just shifted my whole, like, people are like the doors of perception, but it just like shifted my whole mindset about like corporate value creation and participating in that. And I was completely hooked. So I made the decision right then and there, like, I will only work if I can earn equity, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
all about equity and corporate value and owning a piece of that corporate value. And the ability to do that typically happens in startups. It's one of the unique things about the Bay Area. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the jump right there, and the journey's continued ever since.
Yeah, no, that's a good lesson to learn. And obviously, you worked with an Apple rock star right out the gate. Now that you've been a, call it, seasoned entrepreneur for the past
Sure.
few years, how do you go about differentiating building out a team of A players like that versus finding a team of B players, C players that just get the job done? What's the differences and how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we're in that build mode right now. So uh, this is a very timely conversation. I think in the early days, you just want to get the best, smartest people you can. And a lot of it depends on what direction you're going in. So one of the things that people don't talk about, but it's true, is um, funding. There's a lot of funds that will only fund people out of MIT, Stanford, or Harvard, like literally, like that's it. So if you're going to go for VC funds, you want to make sure you got people who are either multi entrepreneurs like myself who've had exits before, or, coming out of specific like research institutions, like they have a PhD in AI from Stanford.
Mm,
Um, so those are, if you're going to go down the VC lane, you really want to assemble a team that's fundable. And that's one way to look at it. If you're not going down that and you're building a great business, then you want to look for people who have startup experience. Um, Working in a big company versus working in startups, like night and day, like
mm,
literally. So the question I ask people is like, have you worked in a startup? If so, why?
mhm,
Why would you do that? And why would you want to do that for us? And if you can get good answers to those questions, then you probably may have the right person.
mm. Nice, nice. And rolling over the past few years, I'm sure even hiring, not hiring, it's been a lot of bumpy roads, I'm sure. I'm sure there's been some challenges along the way. It hasn't all been smooth sailing throughout your journey. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges you faced, and what lesson did that lead to?
Wow, it's a great question. So many challenges. Biggest challenge, I think biggest challenge is just balancing your personal life and your professional life when you're an entrepreneur. One of the great things about working for a great company are the benefits, the perks, but you also typically get to leave the job at a certain point, right? Maybe even if you have a super important position or very strategic position within the company, you might be putting in 50, 60 hours a week. And, there's not always great work-life boundaries, but you have a work-life boundary. When you're truly an entrepreneur, the results are directly proportional to your efforts. So, if you're like me, you just want to work and work and work because you love it and you're excited and it's like your intellectual pursuit. It's like your life pursuit is to do these things. Um, then the biggest lesson is how do you balance that with your personal life and your personal relationships, wife, kids, family, friends, all of that stuff. So that's just a really important part of it that a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I feel like we're cut from the same cloth in that sense. Is it's tough to turn off. Do you have any strategies that you've learned to kind of remove yourself out of the day to day sometimes?
Yeah, a lot of it's going to be things that you don't know that you already know, right? But that you just have to be disciplined about. So working out super important, taking walks is super important. I'm a big fan of an afternoon nap. If I can like go slink off to the couch for 45 minutes and close my eyes, I'll do that. Eat well, it's sleep well. It's a marathon, not a race, right? So, get your water bottle, stay hydrated, um, take care of yourself. It's that old expression, right? Like you can't help others until you put your own mask on first.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, I like it. And they all sound so simple, but still sometimes gets away from you. But
It's absolutely true. Like it does. It sounds so simple, right? I feel like I'm reading off some like, checklist, LinkedIn
mm,
bloggy checklist thing, but but it's true. The hard part's in the doing.
100%, 100%. And yeah, that's a good challenge is managing work-life balance. But being in the space, launch a new company with Moat, what challenges are you guys facing now? And then also, what's your goals? What's the mission? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, look, we have a clear market that we want to work with. It's private equity firms, and we've got some relationships there that, are engaged and want to help us build. So, we we have clarity of purpose, which is so important, and positive feedback that people want to work with us. So I think for us, it's about just kind of going heads down and execution, right? Like, can we build a great product? Can we get that product in the market? Can we scale it up? Um, but I think we're over the big challenge, which is like kind of getting people to believe in us. I think we have people who believe in what we're doing and buy our thesis. They buy our insights. And yeah, now it just is the hard work and the grind to get it done.
Yeah, awesome. No, I love it, Roland. And I appreciate you coming on the show, sharing all your insights, telling us about what you're doing with Remote.co.
Well,
And
thank
so
you.
throughout that process, where can the people go find you? I'll be sure to tag everything down in the description, but where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, really. I have a personal commitment to answer every single message that comes in on LinkedIn as many as I get. So I appreciate. I'm humble, and I appreciate every reach out. Right, it's an opportunity. So ping me on LinkedIn, and let's connect.
Sounds good. And like I said, I'll be sure to tag it down in the description. But for everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And Roland, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Oliver. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.